Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with NORML. I'm JM Pedini, the Development Director at the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. It's Friday, October 17th, 2025. You know what time it is, friends? It's time for us to talk about this week's cannabis policy and science news and for me to answer all of your burning questions live. Let's get into it. First, thanks for watching wherever you're watching from. Please take a quick second to hit that like, follow, or subscribe button so you never miss when NORML goes live. Also, take a second and drop a note in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know if you have any burning questions. Hey, Ruben. Ruben on Instagram says, talk about cannabis being scheduled as an herb and spice. You mean like the Colonel's recipe? Yeah, so that would really be being descheduled, removed from the Federal Controlled Substances Act, so that states are free to set their own cannabis policies without threat of federal interference. The way this is supposed to work when the federal government works the way it's intended is that Congress would need to pass a bill that would remove marijuana from the federal CSA. And then the president would need to sign that bill so it would become law. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. We've had legislation like this multiple times in Congress. The House has passed it. The Senate has never passed it. And the MORE Act would do just this. Hey, Hammerbake in San Francisco. Good to see you, friend. Hey, Quinn. Welcome back, friend. Hi, Fried Mouse in Minneapolis. Hey, Lucy from Indiana NORML. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yes, Quinn. I did, in fact, work there. I did work for Disney before, yes. Hi, Nick. Hi, Nick. Good to see you, friend. I'm just going to show your thoughts, Nick, while I take a quick look at everybody else's questions here. It's great. Yeah, you never know when you're going to need another distraction. I'm going to have to talk about the marijuanas. Let's talk about this week's news, shall we? Should we get into it? All right, top of the charts for us this week was a deep dive into the FBI database to look at the marijuana arrest numbers for last year, for 2024. Now, there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that arrests decreased ever so slightly. I think by about 10,000. I should have opened that up on this other screen. We had a total, first know this, these numbers that we're going to give you are very likely underestimate, because every state, every law enforcement agency does not report their annual arrest data to the FBI. You'd think they'd have to, but they're not doing it. And so we say this every year. These numbers are, we generally understand them to be an underestimation, but the numbers are what they are. So yeah, there's a small decrease from last year, which is good news. But what really stands out is that over 20%, I think it's 22% of all drug-related arrests that were made in 2024, 22%, according to the FBI, were for marijuana possession. We're just talking about possession. We're not talking about, sales or manufacturing, which is the other um, bucket that they put them into. There were, of these total arrests, of these total 204,036 marijuana related arrests that were reported to the FBI in 2024. Of those arrests, 92% of them were for marijuana possession. The other 16,000 plus arrests are the ones that are defined as for sales or manufacturing. And of course, we don't know how many cannabis related arrests are included in their unspecified drug abuse violations numbers. So there could, theoretically be even more. Yeah. Let me grab you the link to that story. It is on the front page of our website. Sorry, Instagram, I can't share links with you, but you can find these stories on NORML's Instagram. You can get them delivered to your inbox tomorrow morning. Saturday morning, the NORML weekend weed read delivers at about 9 to 9:15 a.m. Eastern. So we can just send these stories right to you. Head to norml.org/subscribe. Make sure you check the weekend weed read box. And then we're going to try this little thing here. Look at that. I don't like where the placement is for that QR code, but there it is. There. It's there. You can scan this QR code, and that'll take you to subscribe to NORML News. Thanks for that super fun feature, StreamYard. Yeah, take a look at that. Let's see what other questions we have going on here. Hey, Samuel, good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, Woodyard, welcome back, friend. Quinn, is this a national stat? Quinn says Black people make up 41% of possession arrests, while representing only 14% of the population. Legalization has not closed the gap. In some places, it has widened it. I think those are national stats, Quinn. Let me know in the comments. And yeah, that's consistent with what we experienced at the state level in a number of states, but I can very much speak to that in Virginia, where we've had legalization in place for a number of years now, and as is consistent with what we've seen in other states, arrests did decrease by 90%, but the disparate enforcement did not change at all. So let's say, we'll make the numbers real easy. Let's say 100 people were arrested before legalization, and in Virginia, this would have been, we'll use Quinn's numbers. Let's say it's 40%. So you're arresting 20% of your population at a much higher rate, right? You have to work hard to arrest your population at a higher rate when they're not the majority. So, 100 arrests and 60 of them are for Black people and 40 of them are for white people. And then post legalization, you still see that. Now it's only 10%, but it's still the decrease, the number of arrests decreased by 90%. You've got only 10 arrests now, but 6 of them are still for Black people and 4 for still for white people. We see that state after state after state. There's something in this office that makes sound. I think it's a phone. It's not mine. Samuel, did I rearrange my room? No, I moved to a new office entirely, a new building. So yes, but it's a different room. Hey, Mike. Thanks for your question. Mike says, when are you going to help Tennessee and what is going on there? So we do have a Tennessee NORML chapter. Mike, definitely be sure to connect with them and see what they're working on. But, the issue with Tennessee, states like Tennessee, states like Texas, South Carolina, Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, you see where I'm getting here, right? The problem is elections. These states keep electing people who are terrible on cannabis policy. If you keep electing people who are terrible on cannabis policy, you will in fact get terrible cannabis policies. Now, there are a number of elections remaining for 2025. There are still, I'm going to read them to you right now, so you know, including a special election in Tennessee. I mean, it's for Congress, but still. We've got in South Carolina on next week in South Carolina, there is a special election for State Senate District 12, State House District 21, State House District 88 in Tennessee, in South Carolina. In Alabama, there is State House District 12 on the 28th of October. In Washington, there's a special election on November 4th. This is for State Senate District 5, State Senate District 26, State Senate District 33, 34, 48. Yep. And then in Virginia, there's a general election. Early voting is already underway. This is the Attorney General, the governor, the lieutenant governor, and your House of Delegates member. The entire top of the ticket, statewide ticket, is up for re-election, as is every member of the House of Delegates. That's on November 4th is election day in Virginia, but early voting is underway now. New Jersey also has a general election on November 4th. This in New Jersey includes governor, lieutenant governor, a state Senate District 35, and it looks like all of the state assembly districts as well. Texas has a special election for U.S. House District 18. That's on November 4. Also on November 4, New Hampshire has a special election for State House District 5. Minnesota has a special election on November 4 for State Senate 29 and 47. Mississippi has a special election on November 4 for State Senate 1, 2, 11, 19, 24, 26, 34, 41, 42, 44, 45, and then House District 16, 22, 26, 36, and 39. Tennessee, you have your U.S. House District 7 on December 2nd in Tennessee, and in Florida on December 9th, there's a special election, and this is for State House District 90. So there you go. You gotta vote. You have to elect people who aren't terrible on cannabis policies. This is the issue that we're seeing in a number of conservative-led states that don't have any meaningful reform. And then regardless of who is elected, you have to communicate with them, whether you voted for them or not, once they represent you. We have all of the tools you need to connect with them and let them know where you stand on important cannabis issues. Hey, Jesus, that's your name. Tom, you're late. What did you miss? Buddy, you don't ever miss a thing. So nothing. DFW, Simple DFW on Instagram. I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. Different lane. Diff Lane on Instagram says any progress is better than no progress, and that is very often the case. We are not here to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I know that no one loves incrementalism. No one's like, that tastes so good, getting just like a part of what you wanted. But that is largely how politics works. That is how the legislative process works. And it's often with a serious amount of privilege that people will stand there and say, well, this isn't perfect, so I'm going to take my ball and go home. We don't do that. We don't expect legislation to be perfect. We expect it to be the best we can get to move the issue forward in that session, with every intention of coming back and making it better year over year. Quinn says people will always vote against their own self-interest. Unfortunately, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there, Quinn. We see that a lot. Let's get into some more. What's your vote in Pennsylvania, Nick? Right, we're not sharing Facebook groups here because I'm going to delete it and block you. So no. Nick, tell me more about the vote in Pennsylvania. Please and thank you. While I talk about a story from earlier. No, tell me more. Tell me more. Who's voting Tuesday in Pennsylvania, Nick? What is that? Okay. Great. Let's do this story because this is hey, we've seen this one before. Sing along. Adult use marijuana legalization is associated with fewer opioid overdose deaths. We knew this from other studies, and that doesn't mean it's not great to have another one that says literally the same thing. In this study, investigators identified a, quote, consistent relationship between the adoption of adult use marijuana legalization laws and decreasing opioid overdose deaths. And in this, they also saw that early adopter states, so states that legalized, a while ago, first, like let's compare Colorado versus Virginia, right? Colorado at the beginning, Virginia kind of toward the end. Those early adopter states experienced the most significant declines. You can read all about this on the NORML blog. It's right there on the front page at norml.org. It's also, this story has already been posted to our Instagram, and I did include it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I did include it in the weekend weed read as well. What's next? Are there any? Ooh, I really like this story right here. Because in Michigan, you may recall, hey, Mike, good to see you. In Michigan, you may recall that the legislature just approved an exorbitant cannabis tax hike. This is despite receiving significant pushback from constituents, not just from people in the cannabis industry, but through our platform alone, lawmakers in Michigan received 3,146 emails from their constituents opposing this tax increase. Michigan lawmakers received over 3,100 emails opposing this just from our platform alone, and they still passed it. The great news, I know you're waiting for the part that's the great news. The great news is that the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association is suing the state over the imposition of this new tax, which they say improperly amends the state's voter approved marijuana legalization law. The argument being that in order to amend the law that the voters approved, would require approval by a 3/4 supermajority in both chambers. And that's not what happened. Another group has also filed a similar lawsuit. That's looking good. Hey, Chris. Welcome back, friend. Thanks, Michigan Cannabis Industry Association. It's almost like in this case, the industry knows that this cost is ultimately going to be passed on to their consumers, and consumers don't like when you increase prices. If only there were an organization that represented exclusively cannabis interests, cannabis consumer interests, sorry. If only there were an organization that did that. Mike, was this related to, thank you, yes, this was related to Tennessee. Mike says, can you give us a list of who likes marijuana and who doesn't? We sure can, and we have that in Smoke the Vote. Let me go over here and do this little thing again. Look at that. There's a QR code. I can't remember what arm it's supposed to be. This one. There's a QR code right there, Mike. This is going to take you to Smoke the Vote. And Smoke the Vote is our cannabis voter guide. So it's going to tell you where the candidates on your ballot stand on cannabis policy. Now, let me just look at Tennessee for fun. There, you'll see that your governor gets an F. Wow, you know, lots of D's and F's. Wow, in Tennessee. Oh, it just keeps getting worse the more I scroll. You will also see candidates or electeds who don't have a grade, and that's because we don't know where they stand on cannabis policy. They either haven't voted on a piece of legislation or they are not an incumbent candidate. So if you, this is for anybody, if you know where someone stands, you can fill out the Smoke the Vote form. You can click on any candidate, and at the very bottom of their page, it says, know more about this politician's position on marijuana. Tell us. Now, what you want to do, it gives you boxes. You can check, you can suggest a rating if you want. But what the most important thing you're going to put in here are links to your source. So just because you know the person, that's not going to work. We need it. We need to see it somewhere. We need a citation. So if you read about a comment they made in the newspaper, great, grab that link for us. If they posted something to their own social media, send that to us. If they made a statement on their campaign website, drop that link in there. If you are going to an event and you think you might have opportunity to ask them a question about cannabis policy, one, make it specific. Ask them about cannabis policy in your state. If your state's already legalized, don't ask them if they support legalization because it doesn't matter. Ask them about something more specific to your state. For example, in Virginia, marijuana is legal for adults 21 and older, but there's not retail sales. So I would ask someone if they would vote in support of a pragmatic bill to legalize and regulate the sale of marijuana to adults only 21 and older. Try to ask as nuanced of a question as you can. Of course, if you're in a state that doesn't really have any meaningful reform, you can ask a more simplistic, straightforward question. But if you're going to an event where you think you're going to get to ask, try to get someone or you yourself record it. I've done that myself, where I'm asking the question and holding the phone, recording their answer. It's awkward, but you can do it, and then you can post it and share it with us, and then we are able to say, look, we heard this person say it for themselves. So let us know. Help us make Smoke the Vote even more robust than it already is. But yeah, there's that list you were asking for, Mike. You can find this at vote.normal.org. I'll drop that link in there for everyone as well. Indiana NORML says, what a concept. I know, right? David, you're always on the like list. Don't worry. Fried Mouse, thank you so much. Fried Mouse says, and if only there were an organization that would accept much deserved contributions from the industry. You know what? We sure will. It doesn't change how we represent consumers. It doesn't matter who donates to us. Our mission is our mission. We've been dedicated to our mission for 55, what year is it? For 55 years, over 55 years, and we're not changing that just because someone gives us some money. But yeah, we would love support from the cannabis industry that we helped make a reality. Hey, to those of you who just joined us, go ahead and hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're watching, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you have any burning questions you want me to try and answer for you. Hey, Jason, I want to read your quote, your comment, and I'm going to be bold and read it live with everyone else. Jason asks this: in Oregon, lounges aren't legal because of the Clean Air Act, as far as I know. How have other states got around it? Some people do the private membership lounges, but I feel like cannabis sports bars / a place to congregate and consume would help a lot of people. Sorry if it's off topic. No, look, consumption venues are important. Really important. So in whatever state you're in, if you're looking for ways to model language laws for consumption venues, then you should look at two things. Number one, your state likely has some language related to cigar lounges or hookah lounges. So that's one component of it. And then another component of it is the licensing aspect. Many states have event licensing for alcohol consumption. So when you are looking to do cannabis venue licensing, be sure you're including not just a brick and mortar permanent location, but also temporary licensure. And this really helps. This is something I'm about to say out loud, so hold on. A great talking point around this, because it's true, is that it helps alleviate the burden on local law enforcement. It's a lot to expect local law enforcement to know if they get a complaint about some event and they come up. How are they supposed to know if that event is lawful and the activities are permissible? Through licensure, right? So typically you're looking at, like in this state, we had what's called a banquet license for alcohol. And it's been pretty low cost, like $150. So that's the sort of thing also to include in an approach to cannabis venue licensing. And this is something near and dear to my heart because we talk about it a lot in Virginia, being the only state in the South that has legalized marijuana. Cannatourism is very big here. It's going to be even bigger once adult use retail sales begin. And it is not a responsible public policy to say, hey, you can come here and do this thing, but if I see you doing it, I'm going to arrest or fine you if you know people are coming to your state to engage in a lawful activity, then it's an ideal public policy to give them a lawful method in which to engage in that activity. If you can't lawfully consume outdoors, and generally you're not supposed to consume, you're not supposed to smoke in a hotel, then what are your tourists going to do? They're going to make bad choices. So think about those things. Thanks for your question, Jason. Hey, Texas, I just want to grow my own. I've been to other states, Colorado, California, Washington. I don't see why not for the whole 50 states. I try to tune in and see updates. Great. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate that. Again, Texas, you have an election problem there where Texans keep electing people who are terrible on cannabis policy, and you keep getting terrible cannabis policies. I will say in Texas, you're fortunate to have a medical cannabis program that is operational and has sort of passed the threshold that we needed to move beyond calling it a limited medical cannabis program. Now we're just going to call it a full-fledged medical cannabis program. But I do understand your desire to be able to cultivate for personal use. That is a principle that is really important to NORML, and we do include that in all of our model legislation proposals. But again, it's going to be really difficult to secure a major victory like that unless whatever state you're in elects people who support that policy change. Jason, you are welcome. I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you. Let's look at some more news for the week. We did Michigan. We did opioids. We did FBI. See, so if I want to say the good one for, I'm going to say the good one for last. They're all good ones though, but here's one for you. This is a literature review. That's when researchers look at a number of previously published studies. They're not just looking at one, they're looking at, it's another study, but it's looking at a bunch of other studies. So this is what's happening in this literature review. And what these investigators determined is that cannabinoids show promising potential in managing symptoms such as agitation and aggression in people with dementia, with an overall favorable safety and tolerability profile. They go on to say that, quote, among the various formulations studied, the available evidence indicates that CBD-rich, low THC preparations deserve particular attention. And this is, again, in relation to patients with dementia. I did share that I dropped that in the quote, in the chat. You'll see that on Facebook. You'll see that on YouTube. You can also find this in the news section of the NORML website. You're going to go to norml.org/news, or just subscribe to our newsletters. These are going to go out tomorrow morning at about 9 a.m. Eastern. You can get it right there in your inbox. Hey, Dennis. Anything new out of North Carolina? Generally, no. Generally, no. But you know what, Dennis? I'm going to check Bill Track 50 just for funsies to see what the status of the two bills we're tracking in North Carolina are. Oh, look. Okay, so there's two bills still on our tracker for North Carolina. We have the Marijuana Legalization and Reinvestment Act. And the last date of action was March 18th. Then that's H413. And then we also have the North Carolina Compassionate Care Act. This is H1011. And the last date of action on that one was April 16th. So no, I don't have anything new to report from North Carolina. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, milking my PhD. Thank you. I'm grateful that you're here and appreciate your support. Milking my PhD on Instagram also says, as a PhD student, changing the stigma is my purpose. Love that. It's one of ours as well. Hey, Mr. Bmore420 on Instagram says, over here in Maryland, the laws are changing. I'm afraid they're going to take away home grow. That's not something I would prioritize as a concern in Maryland. You know, if we see legislation drop, we'll be all over it. But I don't think there is an appetite for that in Maryland. Okay, so QVentJN, that's your name now. QVentJN on Instagram says, how do you feel about the recent hearing in Richmond? I assume you mean the Cannabis Oversight Commission meeting that happened last week. Is that the case? How do I feel about it? I feel like it was fine. I received good feedback on my presentation. The point of my presentation was I was asked to present to the commission. Of course, I said yes. And the purpose of my portion was to have a conversation, a sort of guided conversation with the members of the commission to bring them up to speed as to how we've arrived at the point that we are at in the state of Virginia when it comes to cannabis legislation. And I think I accomplished that. Hey, John. Hello to you, friend. Oh, Jason, again, we're going to just read this fresh. Jason says, has anyone looked at the timing of the DEA judge retiring and teeing up the rescheduling for the DEA to do as they please now, or less? I don't think that judge retiring, I don't think that's, hey, Tom, are you still watching? Tell me what you think. I don't think that is the largest issue or concern. I think there are real concerns with the rescheduling process and the shenanigans that were occurring between the DEA and named participants, which isn't supposed to happen. There were some shenanigans around that, and that's what initiated the first pause in the rescheduling process, because there was a complaint and then the judge had to rule on that, but now there's an appeal process that's open. And while this is happening, the administration changes, and it's very typical when there's an administration change for any of these open administrative processes like this one, for them to sort of pause until the administration gets its self together. It's just been on pause, and all we've heard from the president is that he'll have an update in a couple of weeks. It's been a few weeks, it's been more than a few weeks, and the only update we've gotten is that there's no update because the appeal process is still open. The appeal process is where the people who got in trouble for talking in a manner that they weren't supposed to, they're allowed to appeal that. Hey, Chris, thank you. Appreciate that. Hi, Ellie. Good to see you. Mr. Beemore 420 on Instagram brings up, I mentioned earlier, that point about, fearful of a reversal of personal cultivation laws in their state. I hear this a lot, and I'm kind of curious as to why people think that's a thing. What's driving your belief that they're going to attempt to rescind or revoke personal cultivation? Dennis, I wish I could copy that. It won't let me copy it. Ugh. I'll go back and find it on Facebook. Thank you for sharing that with me. I don't know what it is, but I look forward to seeing it one day. Hey, Curtis. Thank you for your question. Curtis asks, if Trump's administration does reschedule, what does this mean for the long term for businesses and state legalization? For state legalization, doesn't really mean anything. Marijuana is Schedule 1 right now. Every state that is regulating cannabis for adult or medical use is doing so in conflict with state law, while marijuana is under Schedule 1. If marijuana were Schedule 3, every state that is regulating cannabis for adult or medical use would still be doing so in conflict with federal law. Nothing changes in that regard. What does it mean for these businesses? What it hopefully means for these businesses, and I say hopefully because we're never in this particular climate, we're very uncertain what it would mean. In a less volatile environment, we would be able to answer with more certainty, but there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with the current administration. But what we are hopeful is that if marijuana were rescheduled, then these state licensed operators would be able to take standard business tax deductions. They aren't able to right now because of marijuana's Schedule 1 status. And that is arguably not being able to take tax deductions on your businesses. You are going to pass that cost on to your consumer. That's why you're seeing such high prices on cannabis. If it weren't, if they were able to operate like a normal business, you wouldn't have to have costs be so high for your consumers. Yeah, so that and banking. There is also the possibility that this impacts access to banking services for licensed cannabis businesses. There you go. Kind Idaho, Kind Idaho says Idaho is getting medical on our ballot in 2026. Did you qualify? Is that what you're telling me? Or you're tell me more, say more, while I also try to go to your website real quick. I see your okay. Tell me, did you qualify or are you collecting signatures? Say more, say more. Jesus, I don't disagree with you. No, the DEA did not change anything. There's been no rescheduling. Yeah, David, I've seen, yes, David, I was hoping to see. Okay, so I'd asked why people think there's going to be some revocation of home cultivation in whatever state they're in. And David says this. David says people think that big corporations will be angry about the revenue loss from home cultivators and influence legislators to reverse home cultivation under the banner of public safety and tax revenue. Yes, I am aware of this general trope, and it's just that. Look, I'm growing tomatoes in my backyard, and I am still 100% buying tomatoes at the grocery store. My ability to grow tomatoes that really my dog steals before I ever get to is not influencing Publix's bottom line. I am not aware of any operator that is opposed to personal cultivation. I say that in all seriousness, I know that people have been in hearings where they've heard some local person say something that they don't like. That's a lot. Hearing some local person mouth off in a committee room is a lot different than thinking a whole corporation is opposed to a policy. We've just not seen that. John, since John brings this up, John's talking about the state of Virginia, and John says Winsome Earl Sears is a disaster. This is the current lieutenant governor. You are not wrong, John. You are not wrong at all. And in fact, not only did she say that she had to fire someone who was using cannabis that worked for her. One person. She had to fire one person who was using cannabis who worked for her because he was going to kill people. It was going to decimate us. He was going to crash out and kill people. She said something, she doubled down on this insane rhetoric during the gubernatorial debate, in which she said that she repeated that she had to fire someone, and she had to fire someone, and everyone would have to fire people, because if marijuana were regulated for adult use in Virginia, people would blow things up. It was so unhinged. Whew. Oh, thank you, Dennis. Yes, I do know. Dennis brings up this issue and says, search on YouTube for North Carolina marijuana. It was posted 7 days ago. Someone is screwing with the Indian reservation here in North Carolina that is selling on tribal land. Yes, we are aware of that. We are aware that there was a request to look into tribal operators who are lawfully operating on sovereign land. This would be in a normal operating federal government, this would be a non-issue, but we are where we are. Quinn, I don't want you to sugarcoat it. Frogs, thank you. We are multi-streaming on 2 Facebook pages, LinkedIn, YouTube, 1 Twitter account, and 2 Instagram accounts. And after the show, I will upload this video to Spotify. So you can always rewatch them. Facebook keeps changing, but you can always rewatch these on our YouTube is the largest collection of Live with NORML. And then I have started a Spotify version as well. So thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, so Frogs says, thank you. Everyone who's fighting the good fight, probably unrelated and too political, but is NORML going to have a presence at the protests tomorrow? I have no doubt that many members of NORML and many leaders within the NORML organization will attend protests in their cities, but not in a formal capacity. Not in a normal organized capacity, just personally. I believe people will do that. Ellie, you're in Cleveland. Have fun. Oh, John. Okay. John says, I'm in California and just purchased an ounce of flour today from my local dispensary. It was less than $80, which is way cheaper than the $300 amount I used to pay from dealers on the black market. Still not cheap, but way better now that it's legal. Right on, John. Also, you know what's in it. How novel. Oh, thank you, Frogs. Frog says, also, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and engage with the stream to boost it in the algorithm so more people see it. Thank you for your kind words of encouragement to everyone there, Frogs. It really does help. David, I don't know who this imaginary employee is. She also thinks that you can fire people for being gay. So I'm not certain what reality she's living in, but that's illegal in the US and in the state in which she's lieutenant governor. Fried mouse, agreed. Um, Cherokee's got it going on, says Samuel. I'm glad to hear that, friend. Oh, wow. Jason, you brought it up, not me. Oh, I want to get this Instagram comment too. Target is selling THC drinks in a pilot program in Minnesota. I think it's 10 stores. Jason says it's only a matter of time until the Walmart of weed is Walmart instead of nectar. What are your thoughts on the timeline for that to happen? Which part? Selling these unregulated THC products? I mean, that's already happening. Um, Selling the sort of regulated products that we are used to purchasing at state licensed dispensaries, I think we're a ways off from that. I think what you're seeing in this interim is the grift, where corporations are churning out these unregulated products that contain THC and other synthetic derivatives, and that puts consumer health and safety at risk. How pervasive is that? I think it really depends on your state and what laws your state has chosen. We don't see a high volume of that sort of interest in those sorts of products in states that are regulating adult use cannabis. If marijuana is legal in your state, people go to dispensaries and buy it. They don't want to buy unregulated stuff at Walmart. There's less demand for that. There are two parts to this. There's, what's going on at your state level with regard to these products, and then there's what's going on at the federal level. And at the federal level, there are implications through whatever farm bill they decide to pass as to, what sort of legality remains for these unregulated products. And then ultimately, in order to see real cannabis products that are regulated in the way we're used to seeing them from a state licensed dispensary, you're going to need to see the end of federal marijuana prohibition through a piece of legislation like the MORE Act or something similar. But I'll also say this, we should all be so fortunate as to have the luxury of choosing one day between Marlboro Greens at the big box store, craft cannabis at the boutique dispensary, and pharmaceuticalized cannabinoids at CVS. In some states, you're already really close to that. Oh, okay. Frogs, your comment was in two parts, so I was confused. All right. Richard, what are you talking about? What is your comment in response to, my friend? I don't know what, I mean, some dispensaries do have low THC seltzers. I guess they don't in your state, Jeffrey. Those products are a game changer. They might be for some folks. But at the end of the day, when products are unregulated, it puts consumer health and safety at risk. That's the issue. Not that they have THC in them, that they're not regulated in the way that we regulate cannabis in the United States. There you go, John. Oh no, Quinn, send it, kick it to me again. Kick it to me. There are only three of us, three and a half of us at NORML, so drinking from the fire hose is an understatement. Um, we missed it, not on purpose, send it again. Let me see if I can find it on this machine while we're. Oh, all right. Okay, frogs. Exactly. Uh, it is a slippery slope, Joshua, and I know that our friends in Wisconsin are particularly concerned about the alcohol industry forcing their way into the THC space, trying to take it over and restrict sale of, again, these totally unregulated THC products, but restricting it to their retail space, not these local operators that are selling. And again, this is in a state that does not even have a medical cannabis program. Why pass a comprehensive cannabis regulation bill when you can just hand unregulated products over to alcohol retailers? That sounds like a smart public policy. Here's the thing, though. It's really difficult for lawmakers to say no to corporations that write some of the biggest checks. Alcohol writes big checks to lawmakers. We are wooed by alcohol operators, and it doesn't impact the way we believe, but we get that too and say, oh, well, we can do this for you. We can do this for you. Maybe, but it's not going to change the way we think about a public policy proposal that endangers cannabis consumers. Okay, Quinn, you emailed me. I hope you did. It hasn't come through yet, but I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting anxiously for it. Um, yeah. Frogs Keith Strop, the founder of NORML. I think I got it. Keith Strop is the founder of NORML. He also lives in Virginia. He is legal counsel at NORML, and he still works here part-time. How do I feel about seeds? I don't have any feelings about seeds. Mr. B-More 420 says, and how do you feel about seeds? I heard that in one of the versions of the Farm Bill, they want to makes seeds and clones illegal. Okay. I don't have any feelings about seeds, but I can tell you that seeds themselves don't have any THC in them unless it's on them because it fell off the plant and got onto the seeds. The seeds themselves don't contain THC. So the DEA has opined that because seeds don't contain THC, they consider them to meet the legal threshold for hemp. That it's not necessarily reflected in every state's laws, however. So while the DEA may have that opinion, your state may have a different opinion. I can tell you in Virginia, for example, the definition of marijuana includes seeds. So there are some considerations to be had at your state level as well. We don't know what's going to happen with the Farm Bill. Quinn, okay, I think I have your email, Quinn. I'm gonna talk about that at staff on Monday. We'll talk about that and see who wants to answer. I says ain't nothing really at Target we want maybe besides the popcorn. Remember when all the Targets used to smell like popcorn when you walked in? Mine don't anymore. I don't think they even have popcorn anymore. Here at mine. Maybe yours does. Jeffrey. Yeah, Jeffrey, I think you're in Virginia. Jeffrey says, I just wish medical dispensaries would give us more resources to take it easy and dose slow. Yeah, you're always welcome to reach out to me if you are looking for product assistance in Virginia, if you're looking for recommendations, who has what. And if it's not available at your dispensary, you can very likely order it from the provider in the state that makes it because they all deliver. Almost all of them deliver. One of them doesn't. Oh. Again, fried mouse. You're talking about seeds. It's really important that you look at your state laws as well. Okay, Raven After Dark, please tell me what post that is that you're asking about. What I don't know what post that is, but I'd love for you to tell me so I can see it. Please tell me which one is bothering you. I'm trying to open that page right now so I can see it. Probably have to open it on my phone. Oh my gosh. Why do I have to enter a security code? Yeah, so I see your comment. I'd love to know what racist post you think we have up. I am not aware of it. Is it on our page? Is it on the chapters page? Tell me. Because I don't have time to chat all day. Where's another question? Mr. Beemore, I saw your question earlier on Instagram. What do you think is going to happen with Schedule 3? First part, I want to ask, do you think it would affect home grow in any way? No. Or would state law still be in effect if your state allows it? Yes. It's not going to have any impact on state laws. If your state has a trigger law on the books, meaning some states have laws that say if the federal government makes a change to the Controlled Substances Act, that will automatically trigger that change in our state's Controlled Substances Act, because states also have their own CSAs. So if your state has a trigger law, that could happen, but it's not going to have any impact. It would not have impact on state laws otherwise. All the state laws that are in place regarding marijuana, as it relates to decrim or legalization or medical use, that are happening right now in conflict with Schedule 1, in conflict with federal law under Schedule 1, will still be happening under Schedule 3 and will still be in conflict with federal law. The biggest change that consumers could experience would be lower prices, because if hopefully these businesses would then be able to take tax deductions and pass those savings on to their consumers. Still waiting to hear what this post I need to take down is about. Tell me, anyone. Rodney, how do you go about ordering and getting delivery? Do you mean under Virginia's medical cannabis program, each of the operators has the ability to offer delivery? Jushi is the operator in Northern Virginia, and they do delivery. GTI is the operator in Southwest, and they do delivery. many areas of the state. I don't know how far down Jushi goes. And then my brain just broke. Then we have cannabis, and they do delivery. Air is not operational yet, so they don't do delivery, and Verano, it does not currently offer delivery, but you have 3 that do. So you go to their page, their website, and look at their delivery menu. It's typically 1 or 2 of their, sometimes it'll be like, a particular store is the delivery store, or they'll have a separate delivery menu. So you just go to that. You can go to the Virginia NORML website. It's a dispensaries page. Quinn says, here's a question. Will we ever see cannabis from California available in New York or vice versa? I imagine you mean lawfully. Presumably, once the end of federal prohibition happens, then we can see that. Hey, Chris. Chris asks, this is in reference to rescheduling, right, Chris? Will THC testing change for businesses / employees? It could. It could, in some instances. Not necessarily. We could see that. Particularly for DOT and like CDL holders. You're welcome, Chris. That's what I'm here to do, is answer a million questions. It's about, apparently some Instagram post is supposedly racist. I don't know what Instagram post that is. I'd love to know. No one's telling me. Nope. David, haven't heard anything. David just asking about a Virginia senator who patroned a adult use retail sales bill in 2024, 2025, and he's not been participating in the Oversight Commission. So I think he intends to introduce his bill again in 2026, but there will also be the commission bill. That's what I can tell you about that. All right. Oh, wow. Someone just mentioned NORML in a very large capacity. How interesting. All right, friends, this has been a good time, but it's, after 5 and we're done. Before we part ways, friends, please hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're watching, whatever platform you're on. Engage with us. Consider it a form of activism, a form of advocacy. When you amplify our messaging, it helps us reach more people. David, it doesn't matter. We're not doing that. David says, I wonder if this bill will have a paraphernalia tax. David's talking about Virginia. You and I and Krizak, we've all already agreed that's not happening. So, got you. Frogs, you have to connect with this guy, Brady, who's usually on YouTube, because he loves to ask the closing question, and it's almost almost as funny as this one. What's the meaning of life? 42. That's all I got for you. Everyone, this has been a blast. I love hanging out with you all, answering your questions. You guys are great. Before we say goodbye, I'm going to show you this little blurb. Did I even do all the news? You know what? We did enough. Wait. let's not do that. I'll do two quick ones. And up there in the corner while we're talking is the Join Normal QR code. If you haven't joined Normal yet for 2025, please do so. Go right here, scan that, go there, join Normal. If you've already joined, you can also use this link to donate. This is a really critical time for Normal when it comes to fundraising, as in we need funds and we need them raised and we need them now. If you are relying on our work for anything, please consider not only amplifying this live stream, inviting your networks to follow us on whatever social platform you can find us, but also encouraging your network to donate to us, and please donate to us yourself as well. We are not funded by some big grant from the government. We are not funded by the cannabis industry. We are funded by small dollar donors, roughly about $22. And it takes a lot of work to keep this organization going. So please, if you can chip in today, please do. A few other stories I want to make sure you know about that will be in the Weekend Weed Read tomorrow. There was a commentary published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, and in this commentary, author opines that clinicians must have a better understanding of cannabis and its effects so they may competently and adequately serve patients. Agreed. I mean, hey, do you think your physician knows enough about medical cannabis to competently and adequately meet your healthcare needs? This commentary suggests not, and demands that medical professionals receive formal training in 6 core competencies: endocannabinoid system, pharmacokinetics of cannabinoids, relevant indications, meaning like disorders for which cannabis might be recommended, like chronic pain or chemo, nausea, the risk profiles, dosing and administration methods, legal and regulatory frameworks, and strategies for patient-centered communication and shared decision-making. Great commentary published in Journal of the American Medical Association. And then the final one I want to leave you with, I think this is very interesting. We haven't seen a lot of research on this, but this is a study that looks at cannabis consumers versus non-consumers and rhinitis. So chronic rhinitis, chronic rhinosinusitis, and allergic rhinitis. And contrary to investigators' expectations, the subjects in the study who consumed cannabis were less likely than non-users to suffer from symptoms of these sinonasal diseases, with more frequent consumers possessing the lowest risk. So really interesting study. You can read that in the Normal News section, normal.org/news, or it'll be on our Instagram sometime this week. And you can get it in Normal News, Normal Weekend Weed Read, delivered tomorrow morning if you subscribe right now. Okay, we got it all in that time. All right, friends, I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. I'm J.M. Pedini, the Development Director here at Normal. And as always, I'll see you back here next time. Bye-bye.